The latest batch of playoff rankings, movement in recruiting, and Kirk Herbstreit shares some thoughts on this college football season. Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along on today's show. Our buddy Sean Salisbury caught up with Kirk Herbstreit yesterday. We'll let you hear some of that conversation and much, much more. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to our everydayers. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com today to get started. All right, let's dive right into it as we had the next batch of college football playoff rankings released last night. And it is very interesting because we know what is on the line here with so many SEC teams that were in the playoff hunt losing over the weekend. Here is where the rankings are. So Oregon was number 1, Ohio State 2, Texas still holding firm at 3, so not much change at the top. Penn State 4, Notre Dame 5, Miami 6, Georgia 7, Tennessee 8. So they've got 3 SEC teams in the top 8. Texas is 3, Georgia 7, Tennessee 8. SMU was 9th, Indiana 10th, Boise State 11, Clemson 12. Then we've got a trio of SEC teams. Alabama's 13, Ole Miss is 14, South Carolina 15. There was some griping there on, South Carolina, who's been red hot, winners of 5 straight. What more do they have to do to jump up? And Alabama, who just got embarrassed on the road by Oklahoma, didn't score a touchdown, keeping them firm at 13. Some people kind of raising eyebrows to that. The only other SEC team in the top 25, it's number 20, Texas A&M, who ironically, if they win their next 2 games, they are in the playoff. That would be beating Texas this weekend and then winning the SEC championship game over Georgia. So kind of interesting with the rankings. We'll come back to that. The bracket projection that they have, so this is, your conference champions and all that. They're projecting Oregon to win the Big Ten as the 1 seed, Texas to win the SEC as the 2 seed, Miami to win the ACC as the 3 seed, and Boise State to win their conference and get in as the 4th highest ranked conference champ and be the 4 seed. And so then you kind of go from there. Ohio State would be, the next highest at-large team. They would be 5 and so on and so forth. But in this bracket, how they shape it up, they have Georgia and Tennessee both getting in as the 8 and 9 seeds. And that's it for the SEC. It's 3 SEC teams. The other matchups, they have Arizona State against Ohio State, Indiana versus Penn State, and SMU versus Notre Dame. So, and I should say, Missouri was number 21 in their college football playoff rankings. Missed old Mizzou there, hanging tough. But as we know, if Mizzou had just taken care of business against South Carolina 2 weeks ago, they would be in this conversation. A 10-2 finish, and Mizzou could have had a chance to be in this mix. It is kind of funny, though, that, you got Alabama as the highest rated 3-loss team. It's obviously they've got a great win in Georgia, but man, road losses to Vandy and Oklahoma. I thought that would be enough to ding Alabama completely out of this. But as Heather Dinich was saying, Alabama still has like a 20% chance, 23% chance to make the playoffs still. I was reading some tweets. Our buddy Cole Thompson, he tweeted out this last night. He said, "Did we just get told by the committee how you look is a factor by the committee? And then you fail to admit that Alabama is ahead of South Carolina and Ole Miss?" Again, that's my thing. Like, they pick and choose when they want to make an argument. If you want to make an argument, well, Alabama beat South Carolina head-to-head, yes, that's true. It was several weeks ago. But how you look right now, South Carolina looks awesome. They've won 5 in a row. Alabama does not look awesome. They look terrible in the loss to Oklahoma. So, again, they kind of pick and choose what they want to do. So Ralph Russo said, kind of feel like this pretty much sums it up from the committee chair Ward manual. Quote, "We value winning. We value how the teams play. And in the end, the scoreboard matters." So again, They value winning. I've said this all year. It's different, very different from the college basketball tournament. College basketball tournament, they say, good losses, we reward, right? Like we've got these games, early season basketball games. Alabama's playing top 5 Houston and, fun early season college games that if you lose at the end of the year, it's good losses to have on the resume. Oh, okay, well, you lost to that good team. In the college football room, they don't care about if you lose, they just drop you down tremendously. And they value you. If you play a weak schedule, but you win, that's rewarded. And to me, I think this is where the flawed system is. You're basically sending a message. Like if you're somebody like Ole Miss, wouldn't you look at it and go, why don't we leave the SEC and go join the Big 12 where we can have an easy path, cakewalk through that easy conference, win it. We'll get in the playoff as a, top 8 seed. Win in a bad conference because playing the SEC is doing us no favors. Playing tough opponents week in and week out. I mean, Georgia's played top 25 teams this year and gone 3-2 in it. And here they are at 7. Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois earlier in the year, but who cares? They've won all their other games, so we're going to put them 5. Penn State played one good team basically. Ohio State lost to them. They're the 4 seed. Texas has played the easiest part of the SEC schedule. They've avoided the Bamas and they played Georgia, but they avoided Bama. They avoided LSU. They avoided Tennessee. They avoided all the quote unquote better teams in the conference. And again, they're rewarded because they win. So a few more notes here. Somebody else said the one absolute certainty in the college football playoff this year, Alabama could lose to Auburn by 30, be 8-4, and somewhere someone would still argue the Tide should be in as a 12 best team theory. One other guy said there was no policy for the committee to avoid first round rematches, which is really a mistake. That was in response to Peter Burns tweeted out, they really should try to avoid, like in this scenario, you got Tennessee playing Georgia in the first round. I mean, it's just kind of BS, right? Because it's going to knock out an SEC team immediately. And Indiana playing Penn State, honestly. I mean, it's Big Ten versus Big Ten. You knock out one of them immediately. It's kind of Bush. Like, find a way. They do it in the college basketball tournament, right? You try to find the seedings where, okay, let's not have this, these teams knock each other out in round 1. If one's a 7 seed, one's an 8 seed, make a case for them to move to the 7 or, versus the 8, whatever. I don't know. It is frustrating. If you're an SEC fan and you look at this last night, you got 3 teams getting in, and one of them was guaranteed a first-round exit. So at best, the winner of Tennessee, Georgia could maybe make a run, and Texas, of course, will get the first-round bye in this scenario. But you get 2 teams into the top 8, and there's no guarantee. I mean, the reality is this is a year where we could end up with no SEC teams in the Final Four of the playoffs, and again, it's a stark reality. It stinks. All right, let's get to a few other news tidbits here going around the conference. Over at Tennessee, Dylan Sampson was not amongst the 3 finalists for the Doak Walker Award announced yesterday. It was Boise State's Ashton Genty, North Carolina's Amario Hampton, and Iowa's Caleb Johnson. They're all very good, but I would have dinged Amario Hampton from this. The touchdown total from Dylan Sampson, what's he's got, 22? His 22 touchdowns, second amongst running backs, only behind Genty. I think Dylan Sampson, leading the SEC far and away in rushing, deserved to be a finalist for the Doak Walker. Just my opinion. All right, other news. Over at Missouri, Eli Drinkwitz said they are going to honor Luther Burden at Senior Day this weekend. Talked about saying we were very fortunate for Luther to have been here for 3 seasons. He will walk on Saturday, and all signs point to him being a first-round pick in next year's draft. So we will see ultimately what Luther Burden decides to do, but they're basically telling you, gives Luther Burden a chance to say goodbye if it is indeed his last game at Mizzou. Mizzou is also reportedly getting a key lineman back for next year. Redshirt junior center Connor Tolleson told Pete Thamel or Pete Thamel's reporting, he told the Tiger staff of his plans to return. He was considered a top prospect for the NFL draft next year before suffering that knee injury in the Oklahoma game. So big news there for Mizzou to get him back. Also, a quick note for Mizzou and Arkansas fans for this game this Saturday in Columbia. Saw several weather reports. Good chance for snow showers. Temperature will be in the low 30s on Friday, rather. Not many Razorback games in the snow. So dress warm if you're heading to Missoula, Arkansas this Saturday. What did I say? Friday? Saturday, right? Yeah. Our 2 Friday games are the Egg Bowl and Clean Old Fashioned Hate. Saturday. Get it right. Google it if I was wrong. All right. Over at Alabama, Jalen Milroe had an interesting response for comments made by DeMarcus Riddick earlier this week. Riddick said on Monday, Bama's a big rival team. Every rival team I've played, I never lost to, and I will not lose to Bama while I'm here. Milroe said, or went on to say, I don't even know who that is. Let him talk, was his response back to DeMarcus Riddick's comments. All right, a few recruiting tidbits. Alabama picked up a running back recruit out of Michigan State's backyard, Jace Clarizio, committed to Michigan State back in May. But on Tuesday, he announced he is heading to the Crimson Tide in the class of 2025. He's 6 feet tall, 190 pounds, rated a 3-star, the number 6 player from the state of Michigan, number 37 running back in the class of 2025. That puts Bama at 17 scholarship, or rather, sorry, he had 17 scholarship offers during his recruitment. Over at Kentucky, they picked up a wide receiver in the class of 2025, DJ Miller, out of the St. Louis area, 6'3", 195 pounds. He's a 4-star, number 6 player from the state of Missouri, the number 53 wide receiver in this class. Over Florida, Billy Napier, man, he just keeps racking up. Byron Lewis, the latest prospect to land with Florida, a 4-star running back from the Fort Lauderdale area. Like I said, 4-star prospect, 5'11", 200 pounds, the number 17 running back in the country on the 24/7 composite. Over Tennessee, they picked up an in-state recruit, 3-star athlete, Don Morris. He'd been committed to USC prior to making his flip. And like we said, listed as an athlete, 5'10", 180 pounds, the number 498 player overall, number 29 athlete in the country. And lastly, South Carolina linebacker Bengali Kamara has found his new home. He announced he has signed a revenue sharing agreement with Kansas. Only had a brief stop in Columbia. He transferred in from Pitt, played just 70 snaps with the Gamecocks. So he's going to play in the Big 12. And there you have it. That is the latest news going on around the conference. When we return, you will hear from Kirk Herbstreit talking all things college football and much more. You don't want to miss that. Stick around right here on Locked On SEC. First, I want to remind you guys, today's episode presented by our friends over at FanDuel. You can get ready to tackle all the college games and NFL games this weekend with FanDuel, the America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL and college all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. If you've never signed up before, get started, like we said, with that $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. And that's over at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And like we said, all those college games happening this weekend. If you like some upsets to happen, you like South Carolina straight up over Clemson, you can get some good odds there. How about Auburn in the Iron Bowl straight up over Bama? Get some good odds over there, FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com. Go sign up today. All right, rolling along here, Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. For those of you guys who don't know, I do work in the with our sports talk station in Houston, and our morning show host Sean Salisbury is good friends with Kirk Herbstreit and has him on from time to time. And just yesterday, Kirk Herbstreit joined Sean and thought we would bring you some of that conversation because Kirk is so good at what he does and sharing his opinions on the world of college football. So here was a little bit of Herbie with our guy, Sean Salisbury.
Kirk Herbstreit, you know him, College Game Day and the primetime game on college football with Chris Fowler, also Amazon Prime with Al Michaels doing NFL and doing it all and doing it well, and grateful to have him on and share his time with us. Kirk, is there any great team in college football? I mean, if I say, can 8 teams win it, do you really believe that, or is there 4? Is there 2? Is there a great team in college football?
usually, as you know, it's like, well, yeah, Alabama or Georgia, right? I mean, and it's like them and everybody else. I mean, I think Oregon's a great team. We'll find out next week when Ohio State and Oregon play in Indianapolis. They already played once out in Eugene, which is a massive advantage in Autzen Stadium. So in a neutral site, if anything, probably will favor Ohio State as far as the crowd. I think those two teams feel like they're maybe the best two, but if Texas plays their best game, could they play with those two? I think they can. If Georgia puts it all together and Carson Beck plays the way he did a couple weeks ago when he just kind of was clicking and looking like, okay, that's the guy that we expected to play this year. Boy, Kirby's got a good team that's capable. So I don't know if there's that one team that really separates themselves. I think we've got maybe 3 or 4 when they play their best, and that's the problem. We haven't seen Texas play their best every week. We haven't seen Georgia play their best every week, and so I would give, I guess, Oregon and Ohio State the nod, but I think I wouldn't be shocked if somebody started clicking and playing up to their ability consistently can go right in there and play with them and beat them.
Does Indiana deserve, if they finish this up with 1 loss, would you put a 3-loss SEC team in, regardless of who you think is the best, or does Indiana deserve to be in?
I think a couple things. All the chaos of last weekend, the winners in that, I think, we'll find out tonight when the rankings come out, I think Clemson, who's almost forgotten,
right,
and South Carolina, who does have 3 losses, but if you're going to start dipping into the potential of a 3-loss team, South Carolina's been playing as well as anybody in the country the last 4 or 5 weeks, and they get Clemson this weekend. It's a noon game, Eastern. Whoever wins that game, I think, is going to get in to the playoff as in a large pick. I don't think that takes Indiana out. I think Indiana was a beneficiary with Ole Miss losing and Alabama losing. I think if those two teams won, it would have been a real debate about Indiana's one big game they play. They had 70 yards. I'm standing on the field. Game day was in Columbus.
Yep.
And I had to fly to Norman to call the Alabama-Oklahoma game. Well, we were like, let's stay for the first half and just let's watch this Indiana team from the field. They get the ball. We're standing right there watching them. They go 70 yards. Their quarterback looked like a stud. He's a big guy. I watched that opening drive. They go 70 yards. They put a touchdown on the board. I said, hey, the debate is over. I don't want to hear. They may win this game. They may lose this game. They are a playoff team. That was the opening drive, Sean.
Yep.
That was 70 yards in that opening drive. They had 153 the rest of the game, and they had I don't know how many in that garbage drive near the end. So 70 on the opening drive, you get 83 the rest of the game. So after that, I was like, yeesh, I don't know if they should be in there or not. And then Ole Miss loses and Alabama loses. I don't think Indiana, if they beat Purdue, they're 11-1, and with those other teams losing, I really don't think there's much of a debate because I don't know how many teams are left for the at-large spot.
Right.
So I think Indiana, they're a lock if they beat Purdue and finish 11-1.
If the Heisman Trophy is voted on today, who wins it?
Travis Hunter.
He's the best player in college football, right?
Yeah, and I think what he's doing we've never seen. I mean, we've seen, obviously, Charles Woodson, who ended up winning the Heisman, but he was a corner who occasionally played receiver, maybe 2 or 3 snaps. He'd return punts. That's what probably won him the Heisman against Ohio State. This kid plays almost every snap.
Unreal.
And he's the best receiver on the field, and he's the best corner on the field. And he's not going to have numbers that's going to make you go, oh, my God, look at – you almost have to watch him week in and week out to appreciate what he does and how many snaps he plays. But I think that's an anomaly in the sport. And so I'd be shocked. Genty's having a big year at Boise State, a little bit off the radar. I just don't know if usually there's that quarterback on the number 1 ranked team that's having a big year. I just don't feel that that's the case with Dylan Gabriel at Oregon. I don't know. I think it's Travis Hunter and everybody else, but I guess we'll find out here in a few weeks.
Not a quarterback award this year. Couldn't agree more. If he doesn't win it, the kid from Boise State, Genty's been fabulous, as you said. But College Game Day, tell me how different it is. I mean, and the dynamic now with the, Nick is so good. You guys are doing, and having McAfee on. But as we start to see, Lee Corso's role, and who I love, and I know you do too, because nobody takes care of him. And I loved how he took care of you during that time with Ben on that feature. The different dynamic of College Game Day, how's it feel now?
I'm personally having a time in my life. I mean, you know studio television probably better than most because of all your experience in doing it. And I may have told you this about 3 years ago when I started to do Amazon Thursday night. Obviously, it's a lot, the prep. The execution on air, I've learned to manage that. But what's just unpredictable is that, right now I'm prepping for Raiders Chiefs on Friday, Black Friday this week. And basically from Sunday through Saturday night at midnight, I'm in full on 10 out of 10 prep mode. And 3 years ago, I thought, man, I don't know if I really want to try to keep managing all three of these. I don't know which one I would take out if I didn't. Would I take away game day? Would I take away the Saturday night game? And I just love calling the games with Fowler on Saturday. And now we have the SEC. We get all these great games and do all the postseason and the playoff and all that. I didn't want to take that away. And obviously I just started Amazon. I didn't want to take that away. So I thought, if I have to take something away, as much as I don't want to, maybe I have to consider taking away College Game Day. And then Pat started to come on the show a few years ago. And then it was such a game changer for me because I really enjoy his energy, not just on the air, but really more importantly for me personally, off the air. What he's done for me, the relationship, the friendship that I have with him was a game changer. And so when that came on, that energy came on game day, I was like, man, I could never leave game day. And then Coach Saban came around this year to go along with all of that. And it's a changing of a guard. We had Chris Fowler and Lee Corso and myself forever. And then Chris left. And then Reese came on, does a great job. And Desmond obviously has been there for a long time. Just the dynamic and the chemistry, which is so important in studio shows, has changed quite a bit. But, man, Coach Saban, you would not believe how he acts in meetings, how he acts every time. He and I do a weekly kind of like a film session thing. And when we get done, every time, he's undefeated in asking me this every time. We get done, I'll high five him. He's like a rookie, and he turns to me and he's like, "Was that okay? Did we do okay there?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, yeah." So here's the greatest coach of all time, wants to be coached, wants to know what's good, wants to know what is he doing, where it can be better. And he genuinely feels that way.
Hence why he's the greatest coach of all time, right? He's still learning, right?
Yeah. He's not like, hey, guys, I'm Nick Saban. Everybody get out of the way. I'm the smartest guy in the world. Like, just get out of the way and listen to me. He's the total opposite of that. He listens. If you have a point analytically to make, he embraces it. He's been fascinating. I've known him forever. So I think there's a kind of a building chemistry with he and I. And I think just everybody on the set, I think he feels comfortable. I think he feels at ease. And I think it's really bringing out a side of him that a lot of people prior to this who didn't know him, they just saw him in front of the podium with a Coke on his podium, and with his hands going and yelling like Bill does, Belichick, that used to do on to Cincinnati. And you're seeing a different side of him. I think a lot of people have been just blown away by Coach Saban and seeing the human side in him. And man, it's the show's never been hotter. It's never been better. And the 12-team playoff, the debate, and tonight the rankings come out. I mean, it's as much as is going wrong off the field in the off season with this sport. Man, in the fall from September to the bowl games, there's a lot to enjoy. And I think this 12-team playoff, I don't know how you feel about it, but it really has opened up so much more access and so many more teams and so many more matchups all the way to this weekend. Teams like Arizona State, they would never even be thought of forever. And now here they are on the brink. They got Arizona, and if they win, they're in the Big 12 championship. And Kenny Dillingham, as young as he is got a team that maybe gets a bye into the playoff. I mean, who knows? I mean, that's what's cool about this. So yeah, we're having a great time, and I'm enjoying this 12-team playoff and all the debate that goes along with it.
It's always good to have you, and this Thanksgiving will be void of your best friend. And I'm going to start there because we talk a lot of football over the years, brother, and we dive in and have a great time. But I was emotional for you. I own 3 dogs and love them, or they own me, is the way I should put it. And that friendship, and I don't want to tie into your emotion, but I don't know if you ever get over that, brother. How are you doing? How's your family holding up? And thank you for bringing Ben into our lives, man. It mattered to me, and I know it mattered to a whole bunch of people across the country.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, it was obviously a tough few weeks there. I've had dogs since going back to as long as I can remember, really. But I've had golden retrievers, which for me are such a special breed because of the relationship that you have with them. But I've had them since I was probably 15, and I've had to put, unfortunately, dogs down over the years, and it's always a tough thing to do. But man, I don't know. You never really can predict emotions, but
yep.
It was just a relationship. I think it was maybe the time of my life. 4 sons, and 3 of them had moved on to college, and he was just with me everywhere. I took him. I started to take him on the road with me, and he was with me at home. I mean, I'm a guy. I don't know how you are with your dogs. I mean, I take my dogs for a walk by myself probably 5-6 times a week. And so anyway, it's just a really, really special bond, and it was just really hard to let go. And when I led to that, the feature that they had done that I had to track, I was totally fine. I mean, Reese threw it to me.
That was phenomenal.
And as soon as he threw it to me, I couldn't breathe, and like I said, when you grieve, whether it's a family member or a friend, or in this case, my dog, what I've learned, what I was reminded of is it kind of comes in waves. 1 second you're totally fine and talking like we are right now, and then the next second, bang, it just hits you like a ton of bricks. And unfortunately for me, that it was on national TV when I had one of those moments. But I think a lot of people can relate, and I've heard from so many people. What was interesting about Ben is he knocked down every wall, in this era of, especially in the middle of the election and politics and the race and religion and just so much that divided the country. He was one thing that just seemed to be 100% united, and I think you cannot even imagine the people that I heard from, and forgetting football and forgetting sports. I had Texas twice this year for College Game Day, once in Ann Arbor and another time when Georgia played him in Austin. And Governor Abbott, he was kind of like, "Hey, good to see you, but where's Ben?" He didn't want anything.
Right.
He saw him and hugged him, and then when we were in Austin for the major showdown with Georgia, the governor from Georgia was there, and both their wives were on the field, and they were just all over Ben. It was the most fascinating thing. Matthew McConaughey, Joe Rogan. I mean, it was the most fascinating thing that people were just drawn to him. I think it was maybe his spirit, and I think that's why at the end, when you had to let go, it was tough.
Yeah, and you don't have to, first off, you brought him into our life, so we almost felt like we knew him. Like, okay, there's Kirk, thanks. We see you for the last 50 years. I want to see that dog. And as I joke, and you don't ever have to apologize for that scene on the set, because that told that this was not scripted and that you weren't, it was done right, and the feature was phenomenal. It gave us all choked up. And if you want to understand, if people get it, I got 3 dogs, like I said. And to understand when you've taken them on the road, do you realize since I've had these 3 dogs, I have not taken a plane ride vacation since. I travel across the country in vehicle. That's the honest to God truth. Awesome. They all 3 go, and I will not get it because I don't want to leave them behind, because I don't trust anybody to take care of them the way I do. And the way I just won't do
true.
it. So that's the way it is. So,
well, you get it.
Yep, 100%. And I can't fathom right now having 3 kids and then this. I really got 6. I can't fathom not having them. So thank you for bringing Ben.
How old are your dogs? Yeah, buddy.
How old are my dogs?
How old are your dogs?
I got about a 2-year-old rescue. I got a 100-pound bully that's going to be 4 in December, and then I got a 5-year-old that's a mix of a Maltese and Shih Tzu. So it's a combination.
Okay.
My 100-pound bully is just a big baby, but tough as 100-year-old leather when he needs to be. So he's a good protector. But we appreciate.
I was going to ask you, who runs that outfit when you take them out?
It ain't me.
Who's in charge?
I'll tell you who is. The rescue is it's a guard. It's the mix of, and it's a bunch of them, but it's like a herd dog. A dog, and he'll herd my 100-pound bully. When I say she has to be out in front. She herds it. It's like, and she's like a hunting dog. She makes this different noise with her nose, like she's a pig that's when sniffing everything out. And I'm telling you, and she's got black lab mixed in. So yeah, and the 100-pound bully, who's the only male in the group, sits back and says, "Okay, I'll let you have this one for now." So and cleans it up. So we get it, man, and we appreciate you sharing, Ben, with us, and we're looking forward to seeing more of Peter as well. I've kept you too long. Thank you for sharing about Ben. You know that how I feel about you, and I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. There's nobody. You're unparalleled in your work ethic and what you do and the quality of stuff you bring to us and to the national audience. And I appreciate you. I love you, my man. Happy Thanksgiving. I look forward to seeing you this off season for sure.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. I love talking to you anytime. So hopefully we get into these bowl games and into the playoff. Let's hook up again and break some of these games down. So have a great Thanksgiving and great to catch up with you.
Same to you, my man. I appreciate you. My best to your family. That's the great Kirk Herbstreit. Always good to have him on and his emotion.
All right, thanks again to Kirk Herbstreit joining our buddy Sean Salisbury, and thanks to Sean Salisbury for giving us that content. Great stuff. And like we said, thought you would enjoy some of that conversation. Great thoughts on Ben as well, who, of course, Ben the dog passing away. We got to meet back in January, and great stuff there with Herbstreit, one of the best. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of a Locked On SEC. Thank you guys for making us your first listen every day. You can go make your second listen. Check out some of our other great podcasts covering all your favorite SEC teams, whether it's Locked On Bama, Locked On Ole Miss, Locked On LSU. We got you covered all across the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC. You guys have a great Thanksgiving. Talk to you guys on Friday, previewing all of the games heading into this weekend.